r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. What's something a toxic coworker did that made the whole office go silent? We were in the women's bathroom in the morning, and a coworker walked in. After extended maternity leave, everyone greeted her and asked her how her baby was. She was smiling at first, but as soon as we mentioned her baby, her face fell. She went a bit pale. She said it died. Before anyone could say anything, another woman right in front of her replied with, "My baby is gorgeous. She's just 4 months, and she laughs beautifully." Good lord. I'm horrible at reading the room, and even I know enough to keep my mouth shut. The lady who lost her baby has a heart of gold. She put a smile on her face and started polite inquiries after the other woman's baby. I, on the other hand, stood there at an utter loss for words. Coworker lost his elderly mom and dad in the same week, one expected soon anyway, one not so expected. Took a couple of weeks off compassionate leave to organize everything and grev. The timing was horrendous for the team, but these things aren't exactly scheduled in, are they? Manager moaned, but it is what it is. Sorry for your loss, and let us know if you need anything is the only correct response. On his return, toxic manager commented in his first meeting back to work that both parents going in the same week was convenient because he wouldn't need more time off in the near future, leaving us in the shit. This is the same manager who a few months later told an employee to maybe give up trying when she took a week off following her third miscarriage, moaning she had time off for the first 2. He was let go shortly after. Because this is just 2 examples of how toxic he was. One coworker's father had had a stroke. This happened on a Thursday when we were pretty busy. The next week, another coworker asked if the father was going to have a stroke every Thursday, as it was really disruptive to the workflow. I worked in corporate marketing sales. We worked on commission, based on marketing campaigns that we created. Last year we got a new boss who decided to restructure our commission, effectively cutting our pay by about 25-30%. Morale became quite low. A month after this happened, she called us all into a meeting. She then showed us a chart for the past year, where we had almost tripled profits for the company. This was met with stunned silence. "Hey guys," she said, "where's the enthusiasm? Aren't you happy with these numbers?" Flat tone deaf silence. The outrage was palpable. I wanted to say something, as I'm sure others did, but I didn't. I just found a different job a few months later. Edit, to be clear, the pay cut had not gone into effect yet at the time of the meeting, and the charts reflected the past year. So we tripled profits for them, and the reward was a pay cut. The pay cut did not influence the profits. That was all us. At the first department meeting following my mother's death, our boss read through the minutes from the last meeting. Then she paused and added, "Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Lisa's mom died last week." Okay. First agenda item? He made a flippant comment about a coworker just being fat all along, less than a month after she had a miscarriage. HR got involved. Supervisor stormed into break room while everyone was having a 15-minute coffee break. Told everyone off for taking a break and talking too loudly. If that's not bad enough, we had a part-time casual employee who would come in to do a specific task when needed. Sometimes she'd be there 2-3 days a week. Sometimes we wouldn't see her for a few weeks, all depending on demand. She showed up about 2 minutes before the boss came and freaked out. During the freakout, the boss singled her out, saying that everyone had so much free time to take coffee breaks, then we probably didn't need her to come in on a casual basis, and that she should look for another job. Everyone went silent and dispersed from the break room. A few minutes later, the part-time casual lady held back tears as she went into his office to give him her time card for the previous week. No one was upset when that supervisor got transferred. I started my career at a federal agency and worked with a guy who was extremely troubled and just weird as shit in general. He did all kinds of crazy stuff, but the thing that kind of shook the whole office was an email he sent out one morning. He was evidently dating another employee in a different division of the agency, and they broke up, so he sent out this email to like 200 co-workers with the subject line, "Please respect our privacy." He then rattled off like 3 pages of narrative, explaining every detail of his relationship with this woman, who broke up with him, and it concluded with, "So we will no longer be getting married." I will never forget the morning that email went out, and the whole office went silent for like 5 minutes. No typing, no phone calls, no small talk, just a bunch of people trying to wrap their heads around what they just read. Nobody knew they were dating. Nobody cared if they broke up. It was not ever going to become a topic of office conversation until he brought it to everybody's attention in the weirdest way possible. Then, to make it worse, the woman found out and was like, "Married?" We went out like 5 times. So somehow this guy thought that casual dating was a guaranteed path to marriage, and he had to announce to everybody that the marriage was off. So fucking weird. Bro. One day I came to work to see caution tape around the door of the women's washroom on my floor. Call center, 500 plus employees in 4 floors. I inquired with a manager, and they just shook their head and said nope. A week went by, more tape on the door. Now I started sleuthing. I had heard something nasty was happening in the women's washroom. A day or two later, a female co-worker walked fast past me. You could feel anger radiating off of her. On a smoke break I inquired. She shut down and went inside. The next morning I get into the elevator to go to my floor. The female janitor is in there with lots of cleaning supplies. I inquire. She had no filter and says, "Some dumb bitch is smearing her shit all over the walls, mirror, writing stuff with their shit." I almost took a sick day, but I knew I needed to see this go down. We all had access to the employee schedules. We could see who was in which day. Half of the workforce was off the hook for being male. As the days went on, we started essentially playing Poop Bandit Guess Who, like, does your Poop Bandit wear a hat? No. Does your Poop Bandit have blonde hair? No. Within a week, I saw tech employees moving a CCTV camera from one of the front doors to install right outside the women's washroom. Management was playing Guess Who also. Actual weeks went by, random attacks here and there. The Poop Bandit could hear the dogs closing in. She started to apply tactics to her drops that honestly impressed me. One day, a woman I know also came barreling out of the washroom, red in the face. I inquired with her. She told me the Poop Bandit was now dropping freaking time delays. She had put a handful of her own shit in between stacks of paper towel in the dispenser. It could have been there for hours or days, who knows, but this girl pulled out a paper towel and handful of cold shit landed in her hand. Management was crossing off names, but they weren't getting as far as they wanted. Myself and my 2 hilarious co-workers were pulled aside. We were asked for our Guess Who info, since we had been doing that longer than management. We forwarded the lists. At this point, I had a very strong idea of who was doing this, but management rightfully told me to keep it to myself or management. I didn't snitch. I wanted this madness to continue, if I'm being honest. One day we are all working, and we see police come in. Work shuts the F down. Nobody is doing anything but standing and staring. I see my candidate get pulled into an office. The door closes, and the work floor explodes in applause, laughter, and a discernible relief swept over the office. We saw her get walked out of the office. Some hours later, we go outside for a smoke break. She is across the street, stopping every co-worker coming to or leaving work, that it wasn't her. She would never. It was absolutely proven to be her. After that weekend I approached some people to see if they would donate, so we could buy the only female janitor some coffee and restaurant gift cards. She deserves a lot more than that. Thank you for reading so far about the miscreant my job deemed the Poop Bandit. Be well. In a meeting with the higher-ups, co-worker introduced himself and said with a straight face that he has more work experience in the area that we work in than all the others in the team altogether. I worked at a restaurant in the late 90s. There was this asshole cook who always told the female servers how much he liked tacos. He finally got fired when one of the servers got her braces off and everyone in the back of the restaurant was complimenting her smile. He responds with, "I'd like to see your other smile." He was 28. She was 17. He just looked at everyone like he was funny. Since it was a Friday night, he was fired later that evening after the dinner rush. When I worked in retail, I was training a new guy. At the very first break of his very first day, we are at a table in the break room making small talk, and just suddenly, "So, do you shave your kitty?" It got quiet in there fast. I got up and walked to the manager's office, and word had gotten there before I did. They told me to take the rest of the day off with pay. I was told he got up a few minutes later and just walked out the front door. Not office but restaurant. 40-something coked out server having a daily midlife crisis punched an 18-year-old server in the face in the middle of dinner shift because he was paranoid. The dining room cleared out in the blink of an eye. Everyone lost money that night because our GM was just like, "We better calm everyone and just let them go somewhere without random violence." A guy hired to work on a trading desk at my old company started to argue with his trainer. The trainer asserted himself, and the trainee, on his third day, loudly blew up, stood up shouting, and pushed some papers and supplies on his desk onto the floor. The entire floor went silent and looked over. The guy was escorted out and fired. I found out later that he'd been given a company-sponsored credit card to pay for moving expenses that would be reimbursed. The paperwork on the credit card emphasized that the owner of the card is responsible for the bill, not the company. Seems he didn't read that and went straight from his firing to an electronics shop to buy $thousands in film, stereo, and TV equipment he said he needed for work. The joke was on him when he got the bill. We found out because he refused to pay the bill, saying that the company would pay it. The company refused, sticking the unemployed temper tantrum dude with the bill. After multiple incidents of attempted fraud like this, the credit card program was ended. The number of attempts to fraudulently charge personal items to the company exceeded everyone's expectations. It showed me that the financial industry has plenty of crooks at all levels of employment. First, a bit of backstory. We have a beloved staff member who was getting married. I'll call her N. She's the sweetest, kindest person ever. She also has had her fair share of family trauma, so we tend to be very protective of her. She is a Christian. She believes in no sex before marriage. As her friends, we were basically giving her the sex that she never got, albeit in a more adult and group of girlfriends kinda way. We are a very close-knit group. We always had a good laugh, and she actually appreciated the info. Well, cue the crazy one, H. One day, N and H are in the lunchroom on break at the same time. H says, "Hey N, you should try this sometime," and proceeds to show her a very up-close video of a woman masturbating and squirting. Who was the woman? Herself. Poor N was shell-shocked. She didn't know what to say. When she told me like 10 days later, she was bawling her eyes out. She was just trying to trauma block it. I was horrified. I asked if she wanted me to report it to our boss. She did, so I did. H was fired the next day. Guess what? That's not the part that made the office go silent, because we definitely didn't stay silent. We had a really terrible manager at the time. I reported the incident to the business owner, not the manager. She decided it was appropriate to give N a write-up for viewing inappropriate videos on the premises. She then decided to give me a write-up for gossiping, which I absolutely refused to sign, and insisted they rip up the one N reluctantly signed, which eventually they did. Everyone's flabbers were gasted. That manager didn't last long. The guy who sent a racist joke by email, and he used the company global address. That went to everyone in Ireland, United Kingdom, China, Africa, the EU, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. We had an employee celebration hosted in a casino ballroom. From the jump, everyone was disappointed that we were not in fact partying at a casino, but instead being held hostage by the most god-awful motivational speaker to grace God's green earth. The organizer of the event was a well-known loon in the company. At the end of the speaker's rant, she rushed on stage, grabbed the mic, and proceeded to trauma dump her suicide attempt story to all 200 of us. Could have had a pin drop and then some. Shit was wild. I was in a line in the cafeteria, and the lunch lady was chatting about her boyfriend as she was making my sandwich. She was talking about what a great guy he was and how happy he made her. I said, I'm really happy for you, and I really hope I can meet someone like that someday. And she said, you probably never will. You could hear a pin drop in the line behind me. I ended up just leaving without my sandwich. She had been messaging me to meet about something, and I had told her each time I had other tasks that I needed to prioritize first. This woman thought she was my boss, so she didn't like that. She came over to my desk and slammed her papers on it and started angrily listing off everything she wanted me to do, and then stormed away. Our co-workers were stunned and both reported her to the boss. She disappeared on leave the next day and never came back. Pulled a pile of old fingernails out of her pocket and started chewing on them. I fired her shortly thereafter. She said of a co-worker who had a baby die of SIDS. She's such a bitch, no wonder her baby died. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more. Have a nice evening.